Hello there and welcome to another episode of Reporting Depp v Heard. It's been the end of a very long week and we had some hugely dramatic testimony all day, including a witness who was actually struck off because she had been watching video clips of other witnesses during the trial. That was Gina Duters, who was one of Johnny Depp's witnesses. She testified for about 45 minutes, said that she'd taken drugs with Johnny, said that she'd taken MDMA with Amber Heard and Rocky Pennington. And then there was a sudden break as one of the attorneys on Amber Heard's side approached the judge's bench, a long conference. And then the judge turned to Gina and she said, "Have you watched any of the social, or no, I think she said, have you seen anything of this trial on social media or anywhere else?" And she admitted to watching clips of witness evidence testimony. So the judge gave her short shrift, told her she could leave the witness box, had it all struck from the record, and then informed the jury when they came back in the room that they were to disregard her evidence. So that was about an hour and a half of trial time, I suppose, which has now gone to waste. We also had stone cold Kate James. Now, Kate James is a woman who has no love for Amber Heard. She was her personal assistant for a number of years and clearly didn't enjoy being her personal assistant. She said she was underpaid, she said she was overworked, she said that Amber Heard, when she had supposedly suffered a traumatic incident, spent time in a hotel with her friends having fun and drinking and swimming in the pool and generally looking like they were having a good time rather than being in recovery from a traumatic event. She actually gave evidence in the last trial in 2020, and the judge then decided essentially she was a disgruntled employee and didn't put much evidence. And also the very shocking allegation that she made in the 2020 trial, which was that Amber Heard had essentially co-opted an appalling sexual abuse story and tried to manipulate it in some way, and I don't think she quite said pass it off as her own, but stole it from her, was not brought up at all in this trial. So, and I don't really know why. The Kate James was a pre-recorded deposition, so it may have come up in the course of her deposition, but it wasn't admitted as evidence before the jury today. So you had Kate James, whose manner of giving evidence. If Isaac Baruch yesterday was one of the most extraordinary, charismatic and garrulous and physical people that you'll ever see in a witness box, Kate James stood there, or no, she was sitting down, wasn't she? And just sort of eyeballed the camera with utter disdain, dealt with the attorney's questions with utter disdain, and got her point across, which was that she essentially thought Amber Heard was making everything up. The next witness after Gina Duters, so I guess the next formal witness, was, God, it's been such a long day that I'm beginning to forget my own mind, oh, that's right, it was a counsellor for both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Now, she was very interesting because she basically came to the conclusion that Johnny Depp started fights and was physical with Amber, and that Amber had admitted started being physical with Johnny and actually started physical fights in order to stop him from leaving a situation. So she wasn't 100% sure that Johnny Depp had started fights. She said she thought he might have, and she also was very clear that she saw bruises on Amber Heard's face, which Amber Heard came and showed her after she said she and Johnny had had a fight. Now, that evidence from a respected LA clinician, I think, will go a long way with the jury, but it remains to be seen exactly how they will interpret that in the context of this wider trial. And the final evidence of this afternoon, as I say, it's been a very long week. I've been doing 17-hour days. The final evidence of this afternoon was with Dr. Kipper, the famous Dr. Kipper. From the first, he didn't give evidence in the first trial, but the messages between him and Johnny and Amber and the nurse Debbie Lloyd out in Australia, the 3-day hostage situation incident, well, he actually gave pre-recorded deposition evidence today in which some of those text messages and some of the medication that Johnny Depp was on, some of the drug abuse and drugs that were found in his system were listed in open court and then admitted as evidence. I've been able to get my hands on some of those documents, including the Johnny Depp, some of the Johnny Depp documents. It remains to be seen how many I can publish and in what state they will have to be published, because a lot of the unredacted documents were in the hands of the court, and they may have to be redacted before they get seen by the jury. I think, although she was the most understated of the witnesses today, the evidence of the clinician and the phrase that she used, mutual abuse, may ring long and loud throughout this trial. Now, the reason I'm telling you all this is because I haven't debriefed the day's events in my park bench interview. I've got a very special guest. His name is Vinny Politan. He is an anchor for Court TV. He had me on his show last night on condition that he came and did a park bench interview with me, which you very kindly found the time to do. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be back afterwards to tee up what I think is going to be happening next week. So here we are for, I always fluff these entrances. Here we are for park bench interview on day 4 of Depp v Heard, and I'm absolutely thrilled that Vinny Politan from Court TV is joining me, as he promised to do so last night when I did a turn on his show. Vinny, thank you so much for having a wee chat with us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me to your bench.
I don't have ownership of this bench. I'm borrowing it from Virginia County Court, or Fairfax County Court for a bit. This is an amazing trial to be witnessing, to be part of. You've obviously been here since day 1 as well. What are your impressions so far? We're just on the final day of week 1.
We are in the middle of a very volatile relationship. We are going places where we usually don't go in trials. I mean, they got divorced already. They settled it. This is the type of stuff that would come out if there was a contested divorce, which is rare. It's rare. So to have all of this stuff aired publicly is really unusual. And we just heard from their marriage counselor.
That was really serious evidence.
Oh my goodness.
Again, I'm still trying to process it, because it was literally, half an hour ago that the court finished. And she said, in her view, he hit on her, she hit on him. There was mutual abuse in that relationship.
Mutual abuse. And that is such a fascinating part of all this. So if it's mutual abuse, is she a victim? Or are they both victims? Has he been defamed? You know?
Well, this is the point, isn't it? We are hearing about domestic violence, we're going to hear about sexual abuse, but actually, this is a libel trial.
Yeah, it is.
And there is a very high bar for libel in the United States. So maybe just explain
to
people who don't perhaps get this. We're hearing so much about this violence and abuse, but actually that's not what the jury are going to be asked to decide on.
Not ultimately. It's sort of the trial within the trial, but ultimately it's about defamation. It's about libel. So in the United States, if you're a public figure like Johnny Depp is, you have to prove the statement that was made was false. So it's up to Johnny Depp. He's got to prove that the statement about him being someone who commits domestic violence is false. So that's why you have the trial within the trial. But the next phase of that is, because he's a public figure, he has to show actual malice, which is, she is saying the statement to get at him. She's doing it with malice to do damage to Johnny Depp. So it's a tough hurdle.
It's one we don't have in the United Kingdom.
Oh, we've got the
malice.
We've got our Constitution, the First Amendment,
which is an amazing thing, because as a journalist, speaking to other journalists over here, you guys have carte blanche as long as you're not being irresponsible, and as long as you're not acting with malice. You can go digging and say what needs to be said. We have much more restrictive laws. If you get something wrong and you haven't done a proper job on it, then you can be done. It doesn't matter whether there's any malice involved. So that's the higher bar in this trial. And of course, he lost the last one.
He lost the last one, and he had a little bit of an advantage over there. But I think the advantage here is having 7 ordinary citizens decide the case instead of a professional judge. In the United States, you can have a bench trial. You know, the parties can agree to have the judge decide it. It's rare. But I think for Johnny Depp, being the star that he is, and being so poised and being confident in himself, because he's going to take the witness stand, I think he gets an advantage in front of ordinary citizens versus a judge. I just think judges generally are a little more skeptical, jaded, and are not as easy influenced by things that regular folks are.
Now, the very interesting thing about this trial from a slightly legal anorak perspective is the counterclaim. Amber Heard is saying that she was defamed by Johnny Depp, or Johnny Depp authorised the defamation of her through various newspaper and online articles. The legal anorak question about this is, how will this play out over the course of the trial? Is it that if Johnny Depp Johnny Depp's main action succeeds, then Amber Heard's counterclaim necessarily fails? Or is there another trial within a trial where the counterclaim is going to be given a certain amount of court time?
Yeah, it will. The
Right.
counterclaim will. And so he's what we call the plaintiff,
Yeah.
right? He's the one filing the lawsuit. But as when you file a counterclaim, it's like you're also a plaintiff and a defendant at the same time. So they'll have an opportunity to prove their case. Right now we're in Johnny Depp's case, so it's all about the defamation and the underlying issues connected to that, which are the domestic violence incidents. So it's complicated, and we have a very young jury. The one thing I have found through the years is that jurors, they take their job seriously. As much as you might think a jury will be influenced or have an agenda, at the end of the day, it's amazing how many times they come to a verdict based on just what they hear inside that courtroom and the way the attorneys can marshal that evidence. So this one's up in the air. I think today was a good day for Johnny Depp, but at the end of the day, we're now seeing mutual violence. So if it's mutual violence, is she a victim? Is he a domestic abuser, or is it something else? It's really in a little bit of a gray area. The one part today, though, I think did help him was the picture that was painted about this relationship. Anytime he speaks, she speaks over him. He can't get his words out. And that's what the counselor was saying, you know, when Johnny would try to participate, she would overtake him. And maybe the jury reads into, and I'm sure the lawyers will make the arguments about the nature of the relationship, that she was the aggressor, whether it was verbally or physically. So is Johnny defending himself, or is Johnny initiating it? That's what the jury's got to figure out.
Well, and this is my final question, and one that I've been wrestling with because it could open Pandora's box. What if the jury cannot come to a decision? Can they decide to dismiss both the claim and the counterclaim? Can there be a hung jury? We are expecting, I guess, because we're just conditioned to expect a guilty or not guilty from the TV trials, etc. The jury's got complicated decisions to make about these two claims. What are the basic possible results?
There's a multitude of them. Now, they have to be unanimous. All 7 have to be unanimous in this case. So if they're not unanimous, then what ends up happening is you have a hung jury. And the hung jury could be on one of the claims, on 2 of the claims, all of the claims, none of the claims. So that's a possibility. They could find for him on one claim, her on another claim. The other part of a civil case are the damages. And sometimes in civil cases, juries will send a message. They'll say, yeah, we believe your claim. Here's your damage, $1.
Right. Meaning
you wasted our time. You wasted our time. And that's a message that I've seen many times sent by juries. So there's a lot of unpredictable results. And the one other thing I'll tell
just the juries can set the level of damages in the US.
They're in charge of the damages too. So there's 2 parts of the...
Doesn't happen in the UK anymore.
Right, there's 2 parts of the case. There's the liability and the damages.
Wow.
And when the jury comes back with their verdict, both sides can make a motion to the judge to reduce the amount of damages, overturn whatever verdict the jury came to. So
really?
The judge
the judge does have the final say, even if a jury comes to a specific verdict?
Sort of, but there's a very high burden that has to be reached for that to happen. It has to be like, this would be against all forms of justice, right?
Right.
Like the jury came to a conclusion that no reasonable jury could come to.
I see. Okay.
It's rare.
Right.
It's rare, but again, it's all in the possibilities. And the truth is, most civil cases settle.
Yeah.
That's why Court TV, we rarely cover civil cases because there's no verdict. Because you could be in the middle of the trial, and then the sides see how the trial's going, and they end up settling, and they walk away, and we're like, what? What about the ending? No ending for Court TV? So this case, though, I don't think it's going to happen because this is personal. That's what's making this civil case so different. Yeah, it's about the money, but it's really about 2 people who hate each other, and Johnny Depp doesn't want to let it go, and he wants a very public trial because he wants his side of the story out. And I guess his feeling is that his side was never out there. He was just painted with this broad brush as being the abuser. He's the one losing movie roles, and he wants to get his name back. So whether he wins or loses in court, the ultimate victory for him may be, what's the result of this? Am I able to make that comeback? Do people see that, hey, this was a volatile relationship? It wasn't just me. It wasn't just me.
Now, you've covered God knows how many trials in the past. it's hard to describe this as fun because there's a very serious relationship that's broken down, that's toxic, and there's violence and there's potential sexual violence that we're going to be hearing about. But what do you make of the way that this trial has operated, the people you've seen, the characters you've come across, and what you've heard coming out of court?
Yeah, well, I will say this. Most of the trials I cover are murder trials. So it's nice to take a little break from that because, okay, the plaintiff, the defendant, everybody's still alive, okay? They went through some miserable things, some ugly things, domestic violence. If it happened is bad. All of this is bad. But no one's dead. So from that perspective, because we're also covering another trial right now down in Florida, jury selection, the Parkland school shooting, where 17 people were murdered. So compared to that, this is, okay, a little bit lighter, but not lighter. It's still very serious for both of these parties. The celebrity factor, the fact that we're in Fairfax County is interesting because if you took this trial and put it in Los Angeles, put it in New York, it would be a whole different scene.
Really?
Just because of the density of people.
Okay.
We're 30 minutes from Washington, D.C. You know, people really have to travel to be here, but the people that are traveling here are diehards. They are diehards, they are fans, they are fanatics, but a lot of them true believers of Johnny Depp. And you talk to them, they know the evidence.
Oh yeah.
They know the evidence.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
like, oh, I just want to see Johnny Depp. No, they've been following this. They know the statements that were made. They know the videos that are out there. They know the claims. They know it all. So it's actually an educated gallery inside that courtroom, which is unusual because in most cases you have people just want to see, oh, what's going on here.
And I think, as I said to you last night, there's not just about two people. There are so many cultural fault lines which are running through this in terms of the Me Too movement, in terms of false accusations, in terms of where domestic abuse and domestic violence and how the judicial justice system looks at that and examines that properly are all running through this case. And I think they will have, whatever the verdict is, it will have knock-on and spin-off implications throughout the justice system and throughout society as well.
Absolutely. And you know, when that verdict comes down, you know, will both sides, whether you win or lose, or if there's something in the middle, will they come out and speak, and what will be their interpretation of what happened inside the court? Because at the end of the day, yeah, it's about hundreds of millions of dollars that they're suing each other for, but they're both going to be okay. They're both going to be okay. It's not like they're in financial ruins and they need the money. It's not like a normal civil case where someone's been injured and they can't walk anymore and they need that money so they can, you know, build a house that they can live in. No, they're going to be okay.
They can sell an island or a mansion or two.
Sell an island, make another movie, make a personal appearance. So from that perspective, that isn't at stake, but it is a lot at stake. And I think the symbolism here for a lot of people is the Me Too movement was so powerful and sort of steamrolled. What we didn't see with Johnny Depp, though, was we didn't see 24 other women, 48 other women, like we did with Bill Cosby and others, and Harvey Weinstein. Once someone came out, then there were just lines and lines of accusers. That's not the case here. That makes this different, too.
Vinny, it's an absolute honour and a pleasure and a privilege to have you on the park bench here
All
outside
right,
Fairfax
awesome
County
stuff.
Court. Appreciate your time.
Right. And maybe someday I'll be on a park bench in London.
That would be brilliant. You're more than welcome to come
All
over.
right.
I'll take you through the High Court and the Royal Courts of Justice and show you the way we do things over there.
Awesome. Great to see you.
Nice one. Isn't Vinny Politan a very well-informed person? I'm very grateful to him for sparing the time to come and do an interview with me. So I said before the interview that I would be coming back to tell you what's happening next week. I really haven't got the first clue. I did try. I emailed one of the parties and said, what's actually going on next week? But because the parties don't have to tell the court who is going to appear as a witness until 48 hours beforehand, it's Thursday today, they're not sitting till Monday, so they don't have to tell them till Saturday. So at the moment, it's probably going to be decided tomorrow. I don't even know whether to say that Johnny Depp is likely to appear. All I can tell you is that we spoke to someone very senior in one of the parties earlier. Me and another journalist managed to collar her and say, look, what's happening? Is Johnny going to be giving evidence next week? All I can say is that she didn't say he wouldn't be, which is fundamentally not very useful at all. Anyway, look, I hope you've been enjoying these podcasts. I hope you've been enjoying the interviews that I've been doing. I hope they're getting steadily better as I learn exactly what I'm meant to be doing with all this YouTube nonsense and podcasting nonsense. And I appreciate your patience. I hope you're finding something that you can get from them. And I am very grateful to you for sparing the time to watch all this. If you want to support what I'm doing, if you go to reportingdeppvheard.net/newsletter and sign up there, I'll put the link in the description below this video. That would be really, really helpful. I'm not entirely self-funded. I do have a sponsor back at the UK broadcasting organisation, but they only get me on spec, and it doesn't look like they're going to want me until Johnny Depp speaks. So I'm basically in your hands. If you can keep funding me, I can keep doing this. So I hope it has some value for all of us. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, and I'll be back on Monday for more. Bye bye.